So we're going to talk about what is happening in the real estate market. And I got to let you know, there are so many wackadoodles out there. Crazy people, there's non-crazy people, they're really smart people, there are people I think are struggling with data. So I want to talk about what's really happening. And so I'm going to dive deep a little bit into why I'm not panicked. Matter of fact, why we're actually seeing the opposite of what many people are fearing and dreading. So if you want to know more about that, stick around because we're going to talk about what's really happening based upon the numbers in our area. This is why it's important to have a local realtor, because every area is different. We service Pierce and Thurston County primarily, the South Puget Sound area, and we really know what's going on in our market. So check with your local realtor. If you're moving to this area, you might want to talk to us. We're Joe and Charity Slawter of the Live Well Home Group. More information in our links below about who we are and how we can help you either buy or sell a home in the area. One of the things that's causing the market, and I'm talking about home prices, not to crash is because we actually only have 2 months of inventory. Now, what that specifically means for somebody who's looking to buy a home or who's looking to sell in this market is there's only 2 months of homes available. If no other home came to the market, we would be out of homes to sell in 2 months. In a normal balanced market, some people would say that's 5 to 6 months of inventory for just a neutral, where it's a good equal, people being able to sell and buy and get into homes that's convenient to them. That would be 4 or 5 to 6 months. When we only have 2, that means it's still a seller's market. So it's really interesting to know. We're not like other places that might have massive creep in inventory. We're not having that here. We just do not have enough homes for people who want to live in them still currently. Now, we're not selling as fast as we were a couple years ago, especially during the COVID, post-COVID. We're not selling as fast. There's not as many homes coming to the market, and they're not going off the market. Actually, transaction volume's down, but inventory isn't creeping. And that's just because of how things are based upon a couple things that are really important for us to know is the equity part in home ownership. You may not know this, but there is nearly 40% of all homes in America are actually owned free and clear.
It's amazing.
That is a really big number. When we think about all the homes and everybody's going to lose or whatever else, that's just not true. Nearly 40% of all of the homes. And as a matter of fact, there's another just shy of 30% that have 50% more value of their home in equity. So their home might be worth $600,000, they only owe $200,000 on it. They're sitting on tons of equity. And because of that, people either don't need to sell, don't want to sell, don't have a better place for them to go. So they're just staying put. That's why inventory hasn't gone up. People aren't panicked this time around. We're not in 2008. We're not the same type. We haven't had the same type of lending practices that got us to that. But we still are sitting in a place where we just don't have enough home for people that want to live in our area, a really wonderful, beautiful area. And that leads to this third thing that I think is very important, because a lot of times what happened in like 2009, 10, 11, 12, there's tons of foreclosures that flooded the market. Well, they flooded the market because of bad lending practices. And not just that, there wasn't any equity in the homes. They were buying what was called a zero principal payment. They were paying interest only. And so then they would sit on that for 2 years and try to sell it. Well, when the house hadn't got up in value, but now they had to start making principal payments, they couldn't afford it, which that then flooded the market with people being unable to afford. Well, currently, over the last several years, people have bought with a very low interest rate, kind of in that range of sometimes down to 2.5% to 4%, but any type of that range is really historically low interest rate. And so right now we're sitting on people that have homes with low interest rates that, why sell? And I don't blame them. I don't blame them. I wouldn't sell even. I would want to stick with that because it's really, that interest rate is below inflation rate. You're basically making money by not selling your house because of how inflation is currently. So I look at that and what we're seeing, like historically, across America right now, the number of foreclosures is now, remember, 1 in 1,459 homes are in foreclosure.
This is from the last quarter, right?
In last quarter. And what that means, remember, put that into position, 40% of homes are owned free and clear. And so out of the homes that do have mortgages, 1 in 1,459 homes. That's just an astronomically low number. And it goes back to what I said with 2 months of inventory. When these homes come up on the market, they sell quickly. They sell really quickly. Now, people sometimes get in foreclosure because they personally can't afford the payment, but that doesn't mean that there's no value in the home. And I know that's kind of one of those things that people kind of wrestle with a little bit. Well, what do you mean by that? You could have equity in your home and not afford the payment, and that's why it's going into foreclosure. That does not mean that that home's going to sit there on the market or sell below value of market value.
Because the banks want to get all that money out of it too, and they can.
And they can. So when a home comes to market that's a foreclosure or a short type of situation of short sales, really short sales are very, very obscure to happen in our area at all, because a foreclosure means that you owe more than the house is worth. And when you have homes that right now, you have a ton of equity, well, you're just getting rid of the house and getting rid of that really a difficult situation where you can't afford the payment. Really different scenarios in 2008. I just don't want you to panic or not take right steps for your financial future, because I really honestly believe home ownership is a great way historically in America where people create generational wealth, be able to pass down to their kids or things that are important to their organizations that are important to them. I just don't want you to have a fear of not making a decision because you're panicked and thinking, well, if I buy now, what's it going to happen in 6 months? Never buy a home for the appreciation game. Buy the home because it stabilizes your cost of living, and over the life of the loan, when you pay that off, you now own that home. The only thing that's going to change is your taxes on that, but you're going to stabilize your cost of living and slowly and surely create equity in that home, if by nothing else you're paying off the principal. Because we're always paying a mortgage payment. Either you're a renter, you're paying it to the landlord, or you're paying it to yourself as owning the home. Now, I'm not saying rental's bad, all of that. There's times and place for everything. But please do not make the mistake of saying, this is terrible, this is it. Buy a home for the next 5 to 10 years. That's what I want you to do, because you're going to stabilize your cost of living over the course of the next 10 years to the tune of the mortgage payment that you have. And statistically speaking, it's going to be worth more, statistically speaking, over the life of America, it's going to be worth more in 10 years from now. And I think that's a good reason to buy a home, is for the long-term game and building generational wealth in your family. So those are my thoughts about what's really truly happening. We have low inventory, foreclosures are very, 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 very small, and people have so much equity in home. That is the month of May, and this has been going on, honestly, for years. It's honestly for years. People have been doing, those 40% of homeowners in America, they made that decision. They stuck with a good decision and are now reaping the benefits of that very, very good decision. So I want you to have that good decision. I'm not talking you into buying a home, but I want to let you know, I think it is a wise decision long term. Absolutely.
So a lot of times when people kind of get that information in their head and they're at least past that point, and they feel like, yeah, I feel a little bit more comfortable, but I'm still concerned about the prices of homes, and I don't want to buy now because the prices are going to come down, or like Joe was talking about, foreclosures. Sometimes people want to wait around for a foreclosure, and there's nothing really to wait for. I'm on a list of all the HUD homes that come out for all of the state of Washington, and there's like 2 right now for the entire state of Washington. So it's just not happening, and the prices of homes are not dropping. Yeah, they're not dropping at all. In fact, year over year, they've gone up nationally 3.1%, and they're projected to go up even more than that. But we are actually already beating the projection. In Thurston and Pierce counties, we are up 5% from last year. And people, it's hard to feel, because you know what happened, and you know the market slowed down, and it seems like prices are dropping, but they're not dropping, because a year ago things were selling for 5% less than they were, and this is the data, these are the numbers. And so you don't have to wait and worry that the bottom's gonna drop out on you and you're gonna buy too high. Like Joe said, there's just not enough inventory. So when there's a good opportunity, and when it's the decision for you and for your family and for what's important for you,
for long-term gain,
then the time is right. And it's really important to know that and the waiting game can get you in trouble too, because you're waiting and the prices aren't coming down, so they are continuing to go up all the time.
And in our area specifically, and this is why we go back to local realtors, because every market is different. It is very true that in certain markets in America, they have had a price reduction. There have been certain markets that have cooled significantly. And yes, that is true. So make sure you check your area with a local realtor in your area, or the area that you're wanting to move to. because it is a big deal, so you get the right accurate information. We're telling you about Pierce Thurston County. We have 2 months of inventory. Other areas I know are different than that, but here, this is what we're experiencing, so that if you're moving here, you'll know the best decision for you to make.
Yeah, I know the other thing that people are most interested in and most concerned about are the interest rates. I was talking to one of my clients the other day, and he is an older gentleman, and he's got a 2.5% interest rate, and they were thinking about selling, and they just decided, no, we're not. But he jokingly reminded me that the highest interest rate that he had ever paid was 18%, which I knew they were that high. That was back when I was a kid. But just to have somebody remind me that, yeah, they paid that before, and this is a lot different. Interest rates are nowhere near what they have been historically, and in fact, they're pretty average for what they have been historically. We're up in the upper 6s right now to mid 6s, depending on what kind of loan that you get, but they're anticipated over the next year to come back down to around 6 or under. So it's always an interesting thing to watch interest rates, and it can also be really scary, but that's a good reason to connect with a local lender who can walk you through the process. And we have great relationships with lenders who take really good care of our clients. So once again, if you're thinking about buying or selling and this information is encouraging to you and you feel like you're ready, then let us connect you with a local lender, and we'd love to help you find a home. And you can get more information about us by clicking the link underneath.